And welcome to Make It Fresh. Christy Brown is our Vice President of Sales and Marketing and has taught me everything I know about making ice cream. Jeff Markow runs owned Mystic Ice Cream Company.
You're stumbling.
I know. It's all ad lib. I'm trying to think of something nice to say about you.
And I like being in the middle because I can do this.
And Jeff will tell you later about his book and his class and all sorts of good stuff. And Jeff taught me.
She's videotaping.
Jeff, that's allowed.
I don't know.
Jeff taught me everything I know about ice cream that I'm hoping try to forget because, as you have seen in our videos, he's always wrong. With that said, let's begin. Jeff, I guess you're up first.
Do I go first?
Yeah, do you want to do the magic trick first?
No.
No? Okay. I'm here to assist you. What do you want?
Okay, want me to do that? You can't I'll do that. I'll do it.
Okay.
All right? Okay.
Morning.
Interesting. One is bigger, one is smaller. Everybody see that? Right? Pick one.
Well, you got to pick a person to do it.
I just did.
Okay.
Would you stay out of this, please?
I'll try.
I'll handle this.
Trying to do my
Pick one. Pick one.
They're the same size.
Oh.
Look, they're bigger and smaller.
It's how you have.
This is the audience I have to deal with?
Okay, so much for the joke. What are you going to make?
I tried not to answer.
No, that was the right answer.
Do you want to exit stage right or left?
I'm going to be up here to assist you.
Really?
Yes.
How come?
Just because you look like you need assistance.
Oh, no.
And besides, it lets me, crack jokes about you.
Okay, first thing we're going to make, first ice cream we're going to make. What's the most popular flavor in the whole world?
Vanilla.
It's enough out of you. Vanilla. Every ice cream store in the world sells vanilla. So if you're going to sell vanilla, what's going to make yours different?
The flavor.
The flavor, the texture, it has to be different. If you want to be the best, and if you follow my instruction, your ice cream making and ice cream store will be the best one. To make vanilla special, you can add things to it. Not changing that it's vanilla, but just changing the flavor, texture, sweetness, making it your own. I discovered that using honey in my vanilla changes everything. And there are literally almost 150 different kinds of honey in the world. I get mine from, normally, I had to buy it this time, but I get mine from a beekeeper in Georgia, and you can get it from him too. He's on eBay selling it. They come in these bladders here, and he's got all different kinds. The most popular honey is like wildflower honey. And that'll work. That's what we're going to use today because it's generic. I use sourwood honey. I like that. But there's hundreds of different kinds of 100 different kinds of honey, and if you experiment a little, your vanilla will have your signature on it. Okay? So to start, we're going to use, this is an Emery Thompson 24-quart machine, which for a full batch takes 10 quarts of mix, which is just what is in these bladders. However,
continue.
However, we're going to make a half batch, so we'll use, see how good they are. How much? I told you it's enough. 5, right. So we'll use 5. The first tip of the day, when you're measuring, whatever you're measuring will have gradations on it. And if you just do it like that, then when you go to measure, you have to get down and away and look. So just do this, and then you can see where you're going.
After you said that a couple of classes back, I tried it at home with my coffee pot, and it worked perfectly. Especially at 5:30
Did you have
in the
any
morning.
doubts?
Yeah, 5:30 in the morning. It's hard enough to see anyway.
Okay, so we're going to take 5 quarts of mix. It's called mix, but really it comes from a dairy, and it's really milk, skim milk, heavy cream, a little, this company does use a little vanilla, and a little sugar. And it's basically cream. And it comes in these bladders, 2 bladders to a box. And this is pretty universal, right?
Yep.
In all the world. Okay, so we'll put it in. And we'll always put something here. New?
Yes.
It is, isn't it? Mm-hmm. See?
It's a slight redesign. We're always trying to improve them.
That's interesting. Okay, so tip number 2, when you pour things, the higher, the more narrow the stream. You know that, right? Is this working? Yes. Okay. All right, so we'll pour this in here. And see, the higher, the narrower the stream. The lower, the thicker. Ooh, what a crowd, I want to tell you.
They're hanging on your every word.
Yeah, in a minute I'll be hanging. Okay. We're also going to use vanilla. Steve uses the high-priced spread of vanilla.
Oh, it's not that expensive. And in fact, they've now named it after me. It's when you call up Lockhead and ask for Steve's Vanilla, you'll get the all-natural.
And he doesn't pay for it.
Right.
Okay. So we'll put 5 ounces in.
Whoa, stop. That was 9.
I'm so glad you decided to stay here this time.
Yeah, because we got to keep you in line.
And then the honey. This calls for, because we're using a half batch, 20 ounces of honey. Normally it would be 40, but we're going to use 20. And because this is so perfect for the job and doesn't work, because you can't read it, we'll take a 1 quart container. Half would be how much? Hello?
Half the quart.
1/4, half of the.
How many ounces in a quart, guys?
32.
Wow. Holy cow. Woo. Whew. So we'll add 16 and then a little more. Good. Whew.
If I was baking, I would have sprayed the thing with some cooking spray.
Okay. Today will be
Doesn't
all
stick.
uphill.
Thunder,
Is that what
Class
that was?
canceled?
Go ahead.
possibly.
Okay. So we have this, it's very simple recipe, only really 3 ingredients, the mix, vanilla, and honey. What?
No, I'm just listening.
Okay, you're talking to yourself.
No, I was repeating what you were saying
And why were you doing that?
so that I remember.
Okay. All right. So on the screen here, it says make ice cream. We'll hit that. And the ice cream we're making is homemade, which will cause the machine to run at 234 revolutions per minute. We hit start, and you can hear 234 times per minute the blades are scraping the side walls of the cylinder, so that when we turn on the refrigeration, the mixture inside will start to freeze on the walls of the cylinder. The blades will constantly scrape it off and bring it back to the middle, and that's how we get ice cream. It's just like that bucket down there that Steve's so fond of displaying, where Grandma used to
Oh, no, Granddad, Emery Thompson. My trusty salt and ice machine, where you used to have to turn the crank for 40 minutes in order to get a quart of ice cream. The refrigeration for it was rock salt and ice. Ice alone only goes down to 32 degrees. If you add rock salt, it takes it much colder. Same principle over here, except over the years, we turned that vertical barrel, and the problem with the vertical barrel is when you put nuts and cookies in, they fall to the bottom of the cylinder. By turning it sideways, now we get an even mixture all over throughout the machine. But it's the same principle. That's original homemade batch ice cream.
Okay, honey's in.
Squeeze this way. Sorry.
Now we're going to turn on the refrigeration, which starts everything going. And you can hear the compressor. I always turn it on and wait to hear the compressor. If you don't hear the compressor, then you got to redo it. So listen carefully. You hear that? So now you know that the refrigeration is on, the blades are spinning, everything's fine. Not that you'll have a problem. I've been using the same machine, well, going on 15 years now. And nothing, no maintenance, no nothing. Okay.
Do you remember the time that I made a honey product and Jeff says that I say I'm frugal. Jeff says I'm just downright cheap. So I went out and instead of the explanation he gave you about the honey and the clover and all this good stuff, I went to Walmart and I got the stuff that was a 55-gallon drum for $1.49 and threw it in the back of my car. And that's exactly what it tasted like. It tasted like honey that was in a 55-gallon drum and cost $1.49. It was awful. And what a difference it made in the product. I remember what I was making, but it was terrible.
Especially when you consider we're using basically 2 ingredients. So why would you cheap out? When you make Oreo cookie ice cream, you're using basically 2 ingredients. This, which we know is top shelf good stuff. So then why would you add Schmoreos instead of Oreos? You know, to save $1. You know, the money, forget about the money. We can spend an hour on that. You're going to get rich in this business. So the extra few cents on skimping just doesn't pay. Just buy the best. M&Ms or Schmem&Ms. Oreos, Schmoreos. You know, just buy the best. And we can't say great value online, can we?
Why? Because Great Value is a Walmart.
Yeah. And they're the largest company in the world.
Yeah, no, we don't want to be sued by
Okay.
Walmart, so we can't say Great Value.
Okay.
But there you go. And how about questions? I forgot to mention at the intro. Please, questions. We're going to take them as you say them.
Quick question, how does the honey, or does the honey change the texture of the ice cream?
Well, we'll see when you taste it. Fair enough. But remember that every ice cream store in the world sells vanilla. So why would they come to you for the most popular flavor in the world? So make yours special. We want them to leave our store saying, man, I've had vanilla before, but this was outstanding. And then what do?
They get in line, buy more.
So remember, vanilla, don't take it for granted. We'll get into chocolate next class, and we won't take that for granted either. Yes?
I have a question. If you have about 40 different flavors, do you have to do that for each flavor or?
Up to you. The question was, should you customize and personalize each flavor when you might have 40 flavors in your store? And the answer, you'll have to decide that. I want every one of my ice creams. Right now we have about 28 or 30 on the board. And I don't want people to come in and when they leave, somebody says, how was the ice cream? What'd you have? Oh, I had mint chocolate chip. How was it? Oh, it was good. good mint chocolate chip, you know. I don't want that. I want everybody who leaves to be an ambassador for my store. And the only way they're going to do that is if you treat them great and be real friendly, and the product is markedly different than what they get everywhere else. Not just different, but better. So it'll be your decision. You can make Oreo cookie ice cream and just use good Oreos and good cream, and that's it. Everybody makes that. I changed it. I make Oreo Crunch ice cream, which has another ingredient in it, and it's much better. So every one of your flavors, yes, I think you should personalize it and make it better. Because don't forget, there's an ice cream store less than 3 miles from you, wherever you are, and they're selling their product. If you're both selling the same thing, why would they come to you?
Now, does that mean every day you have to run 40 different flavors on your shake?
Every day? No. No, because you're going to get 7 gallons out of a batch. And pick a flavor, mint chocolate chip. So 7 gallons, it's going to take you, well, depending upon your store, maybe 6, 7, 8 days to sell that. So you don't have to make mint chocolate chip every day. And you'll probably, depending upon how long you've been open, where you are, your customer base, how much you're going to go through. Right now, we're making about 380 gallons a week. And that's roughly 3 or 4 times a week we make ice cream. The ice cream store that I used to have, they're making upwards of 500 gallons a week because they're supporting 3 stores.
A couple of points about what Jeff was saying. The lady asked about the honey. How's it going to change the product? I haven't tasted this yet, but I can pretty much guess that it's going to be smoother and creamier than any vanilla ice cream you've ever had. Sugar increases the smoothness. When we talk about Italian ices later, we'll talk about New York ice, where I use 7 pounds of sugar, and Philadelphia water ice, they like it smoother and creamier, they use 8 pounds of sugar. 1 pound of sugar makes the product smoother without making it necessarily sweeter. So we already have a vanilla-based mix that has sugar in it, and if you just add your own vanilla to it, it's a fantastic vanilla. Everything is just the way you would want. By adding the additional honey, it will be smoother, and it'll impart the honey taste. The question about the 40 flavors, you're not going to run 40 flavors at one time. The industry has moved very far away from that. We used to have, of course, Baskin-Robbins was known for its, 31, 32 flavors? And before that, Howard Johnson, the same thing. And they literally had 31 flavors. Nowadays, because rents are so high, we used to be doing 1,500, 2,000 square foot stores. Now I'm doing 900 square foot stores. Jeff started at 78 square feet, or 72, somewhere in there.
57.
57, even smaller. People don't have the money for all the extra equipment, the extra dipping cabinets. They don't have the money for the rent, but we get them into business. They start making a lot of money, and then the business grows and they move to a bigger store. So if you have very tight space, if your whole store is from where I'm standing back, that's probably about 800 square feet. That's not a lot to work with. So you have one dipping cabinet, maybe 12, maybe 16 flavor dipping cabinet, or a chest freezer if you're doing it like Jeff. So you're going to have about 12 flavors of ice cream. We're going to show you today dairy-free ice cream, vegan dairy-free for the under 45 age group, and that is just taking over the market by storm. We're going to do an Italian ice, so you'll have your 12 flavors plus some Italian ice and some dairy-free. And then every week you'll run, I like to see it done on a Thursday night, you run a flavor of the week. You say, we're going to have, how you doing back there?
I'm ready.
Okay, we're going to have a flavor of the week for the people.
Just as we listened before, we're going to listen now to the compressor shutting off.
That's important because if you leave it running, it's going to get colder in there and the machine, you're going to freeze the machine up. You have to hear that compressor come off.
Nice shorts.
Thank you.
Okay, now we'll take it out.
All right, can't wait to try this. Let's see how fast that comes out. That's the design of our machine. We're in the production business. We want to get that out quick. It also gives us consistency between tubs. If you take forever trying to get the product out, the Italian machines have a grate, and they say, isn't it pretty? It comes out in ripples. Well, that disappears as soon as you scoop it. But it slows the process down so that first tub weighs more, weighs heavier than the second tub. This way, our tubs weigh even.
So may I please ask a question? How did you know it was finished? Because we didn't hear an alarm, or did you just, you sensed it?
That's a good question. The question was, how did we know it was ready to come out of the machine? Nobody knows, and everybody knows. Steve will do it different time than I do it. Christy will do it different time than he does it. You'll know it by sight. I like to take it out earlier than Steve. Steve goes long. I pull it out when it's a little.
The consistency, easy to pour.
Well, my reasoning is when I fill the bucket, I don't want any air pockets in the bucket, so I pull it a little looser so that when it comes out, it fills the bucket without air pockets. Minor
It's
point.
still nice and firm, as you can see, and it's holding up very well. It's not loose. But at the same time, it's a consistency that we can get it out of the machine. People call up. They call me Sunday night at 8:30, and they say, I just made a batch of vanilla, and I put 2.5 gallons in and got 2 gallons back. Well, I know they overfroze it. It's 90% of the ice cream is still in the machine. We have a timer built into it, so you can look and see where you are. But I personally like to get a $9 kitchen timer from CVS. I set it for 8 minutes, and when the bell goes off, I know to come back to the machine and check it. And we'll show you later. You check it by opening the gate and closing it quickly. If it cuts off like a knife went through it, it's ready. But you're not going to be sitting around. The lady who said 40 flavors, and do I have to make each one every day? That's going to take you some time. You're not going to stand there like this and going, isn't this lovely? It's like when we first bought a washing machine. You couldn't you could have a door on it. You couldn't help but watch it.
And let's talk about 40 flavors. I don't know of an ice cream store in the world that needs 40 flavors. If you think about it, somebody walks in, let's say there's even a line, and you've got 40 flavors. To me, it adds to confusion. I'm not saying have 6, although that's what I started with, but 40 seems like overkill, and you're going to confuse people. Do I get the raspberry or the cherry vanilla or the guava? If you didn't have 40, let's say you had 30, do you think you'd lose customers? I don't think so. So usually in the world, simpler is better.
You don't need 4 death by chocolates. You only need 1. 1 will do the job. So everything is based nowadays on keeping it simple and keeping that line moving. That's why I don't like the visual display cabinets where you can see the ice cream. a lot of people use them, but it holds up the line. I contend that everybody who walks into your ice cream parlor already knows what flavor they're going to buy. I know I'm going to buy mint chip. I'm judging everybody's mint chip by mine. Is it minty without overdoing it? Are the chocolate chips fresh? I'm going to see how your store does. But if I come in and there's 40 flavors, I'm kind of looking at them, all of them, and I'm deciding back and forth. And I go, I'll take the mint chip. I already knew. And if you have something exotic, you're going to invite me at the end to say, hey, we just made mango chocolate chip. Would you like to take a pint home with you? And yeah, I'm going to take it home.
Or to make that point stronger, if you're a mint chocolate chip fan or a coffee fan or a walnut fan, when you go in and what do you want to do? You want to try other flavors. So they have samples, which I'm totally opposed to.
Me too.
No samples. And we tell everybody, can I try that? No. But if you don't like what you buy, bring it back. No problem. We'll just throw it right away, give you whatever else you want. I don't care how much of it you've eaten. But samples, here's what happens. There's a line. The line can be anywhere from 3 people to 15 or 18 people. And as soon as one person gets up there and says, can I try the lemon meringue ice cream? The guy or the lady next in line says, When she walks up, what's she going to, can I try the mint chocolate chip? And then the next person, he's going to want to try 3 of them. Yeah. And then before you know it, and I've seen this, the last 2 people online, the last 4 people, they turn around and leave.
Yeah. Yeah. And you get a couple older than dirt guys like us in there. Yeah, and we're trying all these different ice creams, and we eat less than we did when we were 20. And so it's going to really burn you when we have 4 or 5 different samples and then walk out the door, because we just had our ice cream. Thank you very much. But the main thing is it slows up the line. Nobody wants to wait for anything anymore. We want to go bam, get out, and go. So you have your signs. Everybody knows what mint chip tastes like generally, and they know your reputation. You've got nice signage. Make it big enough so that Jeff can read it. And you then pick your ice cream from the signs, and you're very happy with it. And Jeff, I didn't think of that, but that's a great idea. If you're unhappy with your selection, we'll change it. Not if you're down to the last bite and you're just scraping the end.
Oh, I would.
Would you?
Yeah, why? Why?
Because it's goodwill.
Of course, you have 2 choices. Tell them no, you lose customers and goodwill. Tell them yes, you lose 65 cents and you gain a friend.
Yeah. And they probably won't do it again.
Right.
Because they're embarrassed.
The last thing before I turn the floor over to Steve, is after a flavor, people ask us all the time, do we have to clean the machine to get ready for the next flavor? Do we have to? No. If you plan your run properly, all you have to do is what we call a rinse, which means I'll fill this with 5 quarts, 6 quarts of water, run it through the machine, churn it up a little bit, let it come out, and then we're good to go. Especially because the first flavor was a vanilla. If the first flavor, which you wouldn't do, was
chocolate,
Bananas Foster, then you would have, or coconut. Coconut and peanut butter, the 2 tough flavors, because there's always residue left in the machine. So you might have to rinse twice, but no big deal. We're only going to clean the machine, which includes disinfecting, at the end of the day.
When you get very rich and famous, and call us and tell us how rich and famous you are, because we like to hear, when you make peanut butter ice cream, don't make it. Let somebody else make it. To assign it to someone else, because peanut butter is so sticky that you'll spend the next half hour at the very end of the day trying to clean up the machine. So leave that one for your assistant to make.
Well, I have can I have a comment on that?
Of course.
Yeah, peanut butter is the worst, but if you leave it for last, you don't have to clean it up because you're breaking down the machine.
Yeah.
So that's what I do. I leave coconut next to last, peanut butter last.
And if you have peanut allergies or a concern about it, that takes care of that problem, because it is your last flavor and you are totally breaking down the machine and putting all the parts out on the stainless steel table for the next day. So, all your problems go away. I just like to delegate the authority to someone else.
What are you making now?
I don't know. What are we making?
We're making s'mores.
Okay.
S'mores or s'mores?
S'mores.
S'mores?
Because in a minute I'll make some more ice cream.
All right. So theoretically, we would have gone a little bit faster, but warm your fluff to put it in the mix. Give it a good little stir so it's easier to get out. So for this, So summer's coming up. When you have, your store or push cart or whichever business you're going to have, you got to think of flavors that's going to sell great in the summer. Everybody relates s'mores with summer, right? Now, we don't have any toasted marshmallows. However, there are companies like Green Mountain Flavors and Weber Flavors that have a toasted marshmallow extract that you can purchase just to add a splash to it to give that toasted flavor if you wish. I have used plain marshmallows before, and what happened to that little one? Oh, this will work. Plain marshmallows, and they disintegrate in the machine, so you might as well just go for the fluff. So theoretically, if we would have been warmed it up a little bit and then gone straight to here, it would have been a lot easier to get out, and it'll probably mix a lot better. But mixing it with your mix first will make it easier to pour down the machine. Otherwise, it's going to be kind of like stuck in the throat. And it'll mix fine in the machine, but it'll all be stuck down in the throat of the machine.
How did she get in? Not Paula, my wife. Sammy. She snuck in.
So let's see if we can even mix it just a smidge so it'll go down very well. And the machine will do the rest of the work. So I think you have the formula, right?
Yes?
That's good enough.
Oh, to give out.
Oh, I did.
You did?
Yeah.
You need it?
Well, probably be good.
Okay, so 7 ounces of marshmallow fluff, warm for easy pouring.
Got it.
2 sleeves of graham crackers.
Got it.
20 ounces of Hershey's chocolate bars, chopped.
We got it.
All right.
I think we're good.
Okay.
Right.
Now, you already did the white chocolate chips are in my stomach, Jeff, weeks ago. You want to talk about the Hershey's chocolate bars and how you prepared it?
So everybody knows that Jeff talks and Steve about the Ninja blender, so popular. They're not, sponsors for them, but they live and breathe Ninja blenders. I like to do mine ahead of time because it's awfully loud to do it in a class. I opted to buy the actual Hershey bars and then chop them up first versus the chips. Chips are classic. You always see chips in almost everything. So this gives them a different shape and, of course, a different texture. But that's a preference. You don't have to. You can use really any type of chocolate. Now, we freeze them. Now, I know it sounds kind of silly if it's a machine, a batch freezer that gets super cold and you put room temperature chips in it, it's going to melt it. It doesn't. But freezing them first helps them hold their texture and their shape, so they're not going to, kind of break down and disintegrate too much. Some of them will, and they'll blend in real nice with the mix, but freezing them first will definitely keep their texture. All right, we ready?
Yep. Yeah, it's going into the CB350. I checked that the gate was closed because the last time we used it was to sterilize it, and we left the gate open, and all of a sudden you're pouring the mix into the machine. It's going all over the floor.
Whoops.
And you're cursing that Steve Thompson for building a terrible machine, and then you realize that the gate is open.
And look at that. I got some plops out of the machine.
Not bad.
Well, it's the fluff.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to turn it on. We're going to do make ice cream. Now we're just going to do plain basic homemade. There are different settings on here that you can pick. If you want to make super fluffy, traditional homemade ice cream, you're going to do homemade. You can also slow it way down to make a super premium or a custard or even a gelato. So the slower the machine runs, the thicker and heavier your ice cream is going to be. But we like to run it homemade because we're going to double our yield. What we put in, we're going to double that back out. Homemade. And start. So we're going to get that going. We're going to, I guess it's over there. I think I can do it by hand. We're going to add in our graham crackers. I think that's good. I'm going to save this for something else. And then what else do we add? We got that. We got those. Okay, now what I'm going to do. No white chocolate chips. I'm gonna go ahead and turn on my refrigeration and let this run for a couple of minutes before I add in some of my chips. The reason is my mix is gonna get a little bit thicker, so that way my chips aren't gonna just sink all the way to the bottom. And then that also comes when you go to extract your product. If you pull yours very, 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 very thick, the chances are a lot of your product, like your marshmallows, if you put those in there, your chips are gonna kind of stay and get stuck in the machine. Like Steve was mentioning before, like he said, you've got 90% of your product still stuck in the machine because you pulled it too thick. So I like to pull mine a little bit on the thinner side, so that way all of my chips and my ice cream and product can come out.
Freezing at a shorter amount of time versus longer is not going to change the texture. The texture is already in there once the freezing process has come to a near finish. So pulling it out stiffer is not going to get you a smoother, creamier ice cream. My own invention of now 24 years, the infinite overrun control, where we can make any product that exists right now and any product that will ever come along, and nobody else has this except me, is the ability to slow the drive down. So as Christy was saying before, that if you put a dairy product into a bowl and stir it with a whisk, it's going to remain a liquid. If you put an electric mixer in there, it's going to blow up to whipped cream. So the highest setting is going to blow the ice cream up. We want air. Air is an important part of ice cream. We can give you less air, we can give you way less air, and we can give you the lowest air content that exists in nature. But there are caveats to that, because the lower you go, the heavier the product is. The heavier the product is, the heavier it sits on your stomach. So back in the late 60s, early 70s, I was just in high school, finishing up and going into college, and I started working at Emery Thompson, my family business, when I was 16. So I was working with Reuben Madison, his mother, and they wanted a very heavy ice cream. It didn't sell that well in ice cream cones because it was so heavy and dense that it left you feeling full. But it was fantastic for pints, because when you bring a pint home, you take a bite of it as soon as you get home. And then at dinner at 7 o'clock, you have a little more. And then at 11 o'clock at night, you take another taste before you go to bed when everybody else has gone to bed and nobody sees you. You don't sit down for the most part and eat a whole pint of Haagen-Dazs. It would just sit so heavy. And it's like going to your favorite Italian restaurant. If you eat the bread, and the garlic bread, and the antipasto, and the main course, you come away from Luigi's, you've eaten everything, and it's all very heavy and dense. You feel terribly full, and you don't say, I ate too much. You say, oh, Luigi's food makes me feel so full, I'm not going back again for another month. Well, that's deadly for an ice cream parlor. Plus, when we go to scoop the ice cream for a scoop, the proper way to scoop is in a semicircular motion like this. So you're rolling the ice cream onto the scoop. Nobody does this. I want you to go home. Don't do it right now, but go home, pick up a spoon tonight, and go like this for about 2 minutes. You will curse the day you ever heard my name, because your wrist will hurt so bad. And your employees aren't going to do it either. They're going to just say, oh, that's killing me. You're going to go from north to south. We got all the strength in the bicep. You're going to scoop from here to here. So if I make maximum air, 100% overrun, what my employees are really selling to the customer is 80% overrun, because they're compressing the ice cream as they scoop it. When we fill pints, we like to do it from the machine, because now we're getting the full air content, we're getting the full value. If you're hand packing ice cream that's already made, it's very heavy, and you're making it even more compressed. It's a bargain for the customer, but it's not profitable for you. So you can adjust the air to what you want. If you say I want to do only frozen custard, there's a setting for frozen custard. Pop it back up to full speed, and we'll get that very last bit out.
So now, even though we're still adding marshmallows to it and you had that fluff, we'll just go ahead and stop it. Adding that fluff to your ice cream mix into the machine, you are actually giving the ice cream its, oh, so close, its actual flavor of the s'mores that you're looking for. If you were to just add the marshmallows, then people are going to bite into the ice cream and then taste the marshmallow that they just bit into. All right, and I didn't get my cups ready. 2, 3, 4. Alrighty.
Jeff, I forgot to add that your ice cream, no honeybees were injured in the making of this product.
Does anybody have any questions while I am doing this?
Questions?
I have a question. So the chocolate, you blend that, right, at first, and then you freeze them.
Yes, ma'am. And actually, I just froze the entire chocolate bars themselves. And then after they were frozen, I unwrapped it because it prevents the melting on your fingers because it's milk chocolate.
Otherwise, if you're using them at room temperature and you put them in a blender, it turns into mush.
Yeah.
And you can't do anything with it. With this, it's a powder. It's also great at Christmas time because everybody makes candy cane ice cream. I'm always afraid of a small child getting a sliver of candy cane in their throat. So I don't make my candy cane that way. I take the candy canes, freeze them, unwrap them, and then put them in the Ninja blender and grind them into a powder. That way, you've got the nice pink color from the candy canes, and you've got every particle of dairy has a particle of candy cane next to it, and it's delicious, and you don't have to worry about small children.
And it is a very beautiful pink. It really is. I mean, you can't get any more natural than that.
Well, yeah, it's artificial coloring.
I say natural, and then you follow it with artificial
Red
coloring.
Dye 40. If you want all natural red color, you go to Green Mountain Flavors in Oswego, Illinois. He makes Red Dye 40, but it's actually concentrated beet juice. Nobody eats beets. My wife eats beets.
Mickey eats beets.
Yeah, awful. But they take all the taste out of it, and it's a little thing of dye like that. And so you're putting the red color into your cherry Italian ice or your strawberry ice cream. So you've got all the advantages without the disadvantage of Red Dye 40. Great place, Green Mountain Flavors.
That's that green folder that's underneath the other ones. That's that gentleman. His name is Stan. He's a super great guy, and we actually have that red beet concentrate up there. When we do our break, you can welcome to look at it and smell it. Doesn't smell like beets. It's just eliminating that whole entire red dye number 40, which, believe it or not, makes my daughter's stomach very upset and kind of queasy. So
the Red Dye 40.
It does.
What I like about using something natural like that is a young mother comes in with her 6-year-old daughter, and the daughter sees the cherry Italian ice and wants that, and mom says, oh, no, you're not having that. That's Red Dye 40. I'm not allowing you to have it. You, the owner, say, oh, no, ma'am, that's not Red Dye 40. That's concentrated beet juice. And she looks at the product, she looks at you, and she thinks to herself, wow, if they're going to all that effort just to get rid of Red Dye 40 or Yellow 17 or Green 6, what's the rest of this place like? I mean, it just shows very well your store that you're going. You don't have to go, I don't think you have to go organic. Organic is just too expensive, too hard to obtain, and it's hard to convince yourself that it is worth the money. I mean, if a head of lettuce is 99 cents and the organic is $1.29, sure, I'll buy the organic. But the head of lettuce is 99 cents and the organic is $2.49. As a non-vegetarian, I can't convince myself. But all natural, whenever you can do it, is absolutely important. Yeah, if you're going to make bubblegum Italian ice, the bubblegum trees here in Florida got wiped out in the last hurricane, so it's hard to do. You're going to, there is no bubblegum. You're going to have to use an extract. So if you want to make a concession to children, that's one thing, but you try to keep the store as all natural as you can. It goes a long way into your marketing, and it says a lot about you. Like Jeff says, you're not afraid to spend money on the product. You want to give the people the best you can, and it pays back many times over because you're going to have that line out the door. Yeah, you cost more, but you're better.
So let's talk about marketing, what he just said. So everybody knows we can do pints to go, we can do quarts to go, half gallons, ice cream pies. This is where you can have a good money maker. We just did a s'mores ice cream, some more ice cream pie. I can see that being a big, huge hit. You can decorate this super pretty any which way you like. It's the same ice cream that we just made. You could sell this for about $15, $18, $7, your choice. Nothing but profits. The pie crust I cost $3, I think, and 89 cents. It's amazing what you can do. So we're going to make an ice cream pie with this. And Steve already said he claimed it, so sorry everybody else who's watching.
Yeah, but I didn't explain why to Christy. It's really, really important. I'm sorry, it's a guy thing. If you've got a pint of ice cream, guys are always going to buy 2 because they know that the first pint's going to disappear in less than a day, maybe a day and a half. And your significant other can tell that you were in the ice cream because there's only a 1/4 of an inch left. But with a pie, you've got the pie and you had a piece each for dinner. And then at 11 o'clock at night, you can go over into the freezer and you can cut off a 1/4 inch sliver and have that, and it'll never be noticed. And another 1/4 inch sliver, and it'll never be noticed. And then tomorrow night, first thing you do is, you're a good husband, you offer your wife a slice of pie, and then you're back to the 1/4 inch slivers. You can go through that whole pie 1/4 of an inch a sliver at a time, and they're never going to know. A guy who had teenage daughters taught me that trick. He said that and having a garbage can with a silent closing lid goes a long way in his family because nobody knows that he's eating at 2 in the morning. So pies are great. And if you charge $25 for that pie,
You can even do that.
and it lasts for 4 or 5 days, they're really getting their money's worth.
And then I even, before I chopped them all up, those little Hershey squares, I even saved some of those. Whoops. So I can decorate it the way that I want to.
So is that just regular pie crust?
Yes, ma'am, that graham cracker.
And what are they, about $1.29?
About $3. And then this is the protector that goes in there. Take it, turn it upside down, or turn it the other way. Fold it back over.
$20, $25 retail.
$10. $10.
Nope.
And then look at that. You
Sell them
can't
all
tell
day,
me that
$10.
you would not be
could
buying
sell them all
this
day for
s'more
$2
ice cream
too.
cake.
Amazing.
$10.
Yeah, yeah.
You're making a
Yeah.
lot of money.
See?
And they look
Easy.
great. Yes.
Pros and cons of a water versus air-cooled machine?
Yes. The countertop machines, by 350, 200, 100, are all air-cooled because they're smaller. They're not going to put a lot of heat in the store. 12, 24, and 44 are going to be water-cooled. Water-cooled is, efficiency-wise, this one's going to produce ice cream in 8 minutes. This is going to produce ice cream in 8 minutes. So there's no efficiency difference. Water is expensive, but water goes up pennies a year. Your water bill is controlled by your city. The city of Brooksville, Florida controls what we pay for water. That means the board meets and they want to get reelected, and so they're not going to raise the price a whole lot. However, your water bill comes in separately, and you look at it and you say, oh my gosh, look at my water bill. It was $90. I thought it was $72 last month. Well, it's probably your sprinkler system. What your electric bill, though, is air conditioning. If we run this in air-cooled, it's going to take this 74-degree room up to about 78, 79 degrees in about 20 minutes. And so what does that mean? I have to turn on my air conditioning colder because it's an air-cooled machine. That air conditioning is fossil fuel. And so I'm not burning more fossil fuel on the machine. I'm burning fossil fuel in getting rid of the heat in the room. You can't work in 90 degrees. Your customers don't want to be in 90 degrees. Fossil fuel is not renewable, so the energy to run that air-cooled and the central air conditioning is gone. I had this argument with my children starting at age 6, that water never disappears. Water goes down the drain, and they said, it's gone, it's lost. No, it isn't. It went back into the ground. If it may have gone through a recycling or a regeneration plant, but that water went into the ground eventually. Water does not disappear. It goes back up into the clouds as evaporation. Now, it may not rain on your store. It may rain in Dallas, Texas, but that water is not disappearing. So water-cooled, and these machines are as efficient as you can get. These are Copeland scroll compressors. They're made in Ohio by the largest company in the world, and it's a rotary engine. Instead of it pounding itself to death like this, like an old compressor, it's spinning around like this. It's 34.2% more efficient than a piston compressor. So we are saving on electricity. We're doing a better job on water. Now, If you end up with 2, 3, 4 of these, then yeah, you start to look at your water bill, and it's a simple solution. It's going to cost you money. It won't work. It will work, but it won't be cost effective to have a recirculating system. So if we had 3 or 4 of these, which many of my customers do, they're all tied into a small air conditioning unit, just like your central air conditioning for your house, but much smaller, maybe about like that. It's outside, it's air cooled, and instead of pumping cool air into this room, it's taking antifreeze, glycol, and it's pumping refrigerated glycol into the machine instead of city water. And it's the machine is heating it up to about 106, 108 degrees, and then it's sending 108 degree antifreeze back out to the air conditioner where it cools off and brings it in. Just like this, like a car. Closed loop system, you're off the water grid forever, which is a good way to go. Yes?
So you can put that on even just one machine, you can put it on a closed system like that?
Yes, you can, but for one machine, it's going to be $10,000. For 3 machines, it might be $12,000. A lot of it's in the installation, and then you're just upsizing. And I recommend it highly because once you get past 1 or 2 of these, a lot of people will buy, most everybody starts with a CB350 because it's highly affordable. We sell more of these than any other machine in the world, and we sell more machines in the world than anybody else. This gets you into business for a very affordable price. And you work at 18, 20 hours a day, and then you call me up and say, hey, we got a lot of money in the bank, but we don't have time to sleep because it's making 6 to 7 quarts as opposed to 24, 4 times as much. So people jump from here to here. I tell them they can sell it on eBay for 90% of what they paid for it, which is true. But I warn them, the day you put this on eBay is the day that your best friend comes running in and says, hey, Steve, you know that second store you wanted to open, 800 square feet, 20 miles away? I just found the store. And you're going, oh, hell, the guy who's buying this machine off eBay is coming for it this afternoon. So you can either get your money back and put it towards a bigger machine, or you keep it for your second store. You do not keep it because, oh, I think I need a backup. These things last 40 years. You don't need a backup, Emery Thompson, and we're here 7 days a week to help you. And that's here in Brooksville. You call at 8:30 Sunday night, you'll actually get me because only Christy and I want to work that hard. But you'll get us, you'll get help. So Sunday night you can call us. Yes?
And the follow-up with the water question, should you be pumping filtered water through the system? Does like the chlorine break it down over time? Tested that theory or anything?
No. When you're just hooked up to city water,
yeah. No,
it's all copper tubing. Everybody else uses cheap aluminum. We use pure copper, like you'd find in an old mansion up north. So no, it doesn't break down. The worst water that I have found in the United States of America was in Fort Myers. And even so, the water valve on one machine got clogged after 22 years of work. And we taught him how to flush it out. You open up the valve in a certain way, flush it through, he was back in business. Water valves don't clog, the lines don't clog. You don't have to do purified water. One last thing regarding purified water. When we do Italian ice later, this is Brooksville, Florida. You are the only tourists that anybody has seen here in the past year. We are not a big tourist site. Miami is a big tourist site. So if I'm selling Italian ice in my business in Brooksville, Florida, I don't have to change the water at all. It's loaded with minerals because we're basically a coral reef here in Florida that happens to be attached to Georgia. And the water is very hard, it's very awful, but the people who grow up here and the people who live here don't know their water's terrible because they've been drinking it all their lives. So I don't have to modify my Italian ice. Now, I go down to Miami, and every one of them is an annoying New Yorker like me. And we are used to some of the best water in the world. We start up in the Kensico Dam, and we have the water going through a filtration system to, get out big pieces of stuff, maybe an errant body once in a while, and it goes down and gets filtered. That water I don't have to filter. But if I'm in Miami, I'm probably going to buy a Culligan water filter because I want it to taste like New York. It's not as critical. You always hear about you can't make good pizza or good bagels in Miami, and you cannot. But I do filter the water for the Italian ice. It's not as critical, but it does make a difference. I've known people who would go out and buy a jug of water from New York or Poland Spring from Maine and add a couple ounces and then just declare that their water is made from New York water or Maine water. You know, it's kind of like whispering vermouth over a martini. You know? So that's water. You're going to go next.
Remember, hey, Culligan man.
Yes, I have a Culligan system at our house because
I was referring to the old commercial.
Yes, I know, because the water is just so hard.
Okay,
Oh, you got your bladder.
Christy got it.
Oh, good. Always good to see you with a new bladder.
Yeah, usually you don't want to tell other guys that.
No,
Okay.
no, nor how you got it.
So the bladders,
You see what I have to work with?
the bladders, they're pretty stable, but you have to handle them knowledgeably, because if they fall on the floor, they'll explode. And then you got 4 hours of cleaning up heavy, thick cream on the floor. So they all have a little cap nozzle here. And how many people are right-handed? I don't really care. So if you're right-handed, you pick it up with your right hand and choke it off with your left hand. And then, and only then, pop the top. Don't throw the top away. And then we're going to add 5 quarts, which is about half.
Sorry, what are you making now, Jeff?
A mess. I'm making a mess.
Because we need every drop we got.
What?
We need every drop we've got.
5 left.
Okay.
And plus probably 2.
Okay.
Okay, so right now we're going to make, whenever you're traveling, whenever you're anywhere, the impulse is to stop in an ice cream store and try it, right? Because you're all into ice cream. However, go into the ethnic markets wherever you are. If you're in a Hispanic area, go into the Hispanic food market. If you're in an Asian area, go into the Japanese or Chinese food markets and walk up and down and see what they have for dessert. You'll be amazed at the ideas that'll flow from this. I was once walking through, years ago, Bravo, the Hispanic supermarket, and they're pretty much spread out all over. And I'm walking up and down the aisle looking for something that they eat as dessert. And of course I saw guava, which I bought, and then I saw a product on the shelf called horchata. Horchata. So, horchata. So I had it in my hand and I'm trying to understand what it is. Guy walks up with a cart and I said, "Excuse me, horchata?" And his reaction was this, true story, his reaction was, "Oh." So I bought it. And I brought it back to the store, along with other things that I bought there, the guava and other things, star fruit. Anyway, I brought it back to the store, and I opened up this thing about, 25 ounces. And I opened it up, and I smelled it, and immediately I knew what it was. It was rice pudding. It's rice pudding. So I then experimented, came up with a recipe for rice pudding ice cream. It's a big seller, and that's what we'll make now.
Oh, fantastic.
What?
Great.
We have Bianca's seal of approval on it.
You are ready to go.
Okay. Rice pudding, I grew up eating rice pudding, and you can have it with or without raisins. I always liked it with raisins. So, nice expression. So, we'll add raisins because this is my ice cream. And in the store, we add raisins, and people, about a third or more than a third of the people will say, "Oh, I don't like the raisins." Oh well, there's 29 other flavors there. So we'll start with the mix.
Again, one little hint, the last thing we did was take ice cream out of the machine, so usually the gate is left open because you discharge the ice cream. Just hit the handle before you start pouring, as Jeff always does, to make sure the gate isn't open. Otherwise, all that mix is going on the floor.
I'm very guilty of that at home. Very guilty.
We'll add a little vanilla because although there's some in the mix,
Excuse me. Is that the last of our vanilla?
I don't pay for it, so I add it here. Darian is gracious enough to send this to Steve.
We're checking to see if we have any left for the rest of the show.
I'll use it all if you want.
No, I don't want you to. I don't think we have enough.
And then we have horchata. The recipe I came up with for a half batch calls for 40 ounces of horchata. Each of these is 16 ounces. So 16, 32, and then half, right? Since this is a very math-savvy group here. Little cinnamon and the dreaded raisins. Okay, so
What does horchata exactly taste like?
come here.
Should I bring a spoon?
Come here. No, no, no.
Oh, that's smell.
Smell it. It's rice pudding.
It smells good. It smells very good.
All right. So we'll fire it up. And then we'll add our ingredients. We'll add 2 of these and a half. Anybody drink horchata here? You do?
I have the vinegar horchata, which is a mixture with rum and horchata.
Is this going to be a long story? I've got to work here.
No,
Okay.
no, that's all.
Some people, I hear, dilute it. They put a few teaspoons in a glass of water and mix it up. Is that,
I don't.
why would they do it that way? It's so perfect here. Sure.
I'm sure it doesn't matter, but I'm just going to ask you.
Oh, ask it.
Is there any particular reason why you don't combine all of the ingredients, meaning all of the liquids, and pour them in at the same time versus?
Good question. The question is, why don't we mix all the ingredients before we pour them into the machine? Sometimes you have to do that. If you're making my chocolate velvet or you're making Reese's, then you do have to blend them before you put them in, because although the machine is a terrific mixer, it doesn't necessarily blend. So we're going to take, and usually what she asked refers to solids or semi-solids and liquid. If you have that, sure. If it's all liquids, you can just pour it in. And even some ice creams, like if you're making Oreos, just throw the Oreos right in the machine, because the machine will grind them up and make you pieces of different sizes, which is what we want in homemade ice cream. Now we're going to add half of this. Now I have cinnamon here, which we'll do a taste test before we add the cinnamon. And we'll add those dreaded raisins.
Okay, so I have another question. So I know we talked about quality of certain products.
That little
When does
spatula that I had here.
Salt, sugar versus vanilla versus cinnamon. When does it matter? When does it matter?
Putting different things in it. Well, I don't add salt to ice cream. That's an old myth.
Salt?
Yes, which I'll be happy to break. It's been around since my grandfather invented the machine, and before. And I can talk to executive chefs, and they'll absolutely swear that I'm crazy, and I'm not. They say, "Oh, salt is important to ice cream. It's in every recipe I've ever seen since I grew up." Why? Well, it's an important ingredient in ice cream. No, it isn't. It is in ice cream recipes because people were using this. And remember I said earlier in the class, we've got the bucket in here, and in here is the dasher that is spinning around scraping the ice cream off the walls, just like my machine and my grandfather's machine. And then ice only takes you down to 32 degrees. Rock salt takes you down much colder. That's why your oceans don't freeze. Your lakes freeze, but your oceans don't. So by putting this all together, putting the rock salt and ice in here and putting the mix in here and then closing it up, some of the rock salt got into the ice cream. It just fell into the liquid product. And now, over the next 100 years, that's why it got into recipes that ice cream should have salt. Ice cream should not have salt. It does not add to the flavor. It's like, why do we have to make Grandma's bread recipe in an 8-inch pan when I only have a 7-inch pan? Well, it's not because the recipe and that's critical to the recipe. It's because Grandma didn't own a 7-inch pan. She only owned an 8-inch pan. So this is how recipes evolve and how a lot of unnecessary stuff evolves.
So just not sugar, but like, I mean not salt, but sugar as well. Like, do I need to use Domino or could I use sugar?
Oh, we've had this argument so much, and I always said, because again, Jeff calls me frugal, actually he calls me worse names. That is an interesting one about using Domino or regular sugar. We had, after arguing for this for over 15 years, we had a chemist from Domino Sugar take the class. And he said there is a difference. Domino Sugar says on the package, pure cane sugar. It's made from sugar cane, which I have personally cut down in the Virgin Islands, and you scrape it to get the sugar out. The other stuff is corn sugar and beet sugar, mostly beet sugar. And that's what is, when you buy a bag at the supermarket and it says sugar, that's beet sugar. It doesn't have, according to this gentleman, the same freezing properties. It doesn't have the same taste. And it's true, it's not as strong a sugar taste as cane sugar is. So Jeff convinced me. I was doing it because I said it doesn't matter if my sugar's lumpy, it's going in the machine, we'll break up the lumps, and Domino sugar doesn't get lumpy. But it makes a huge difference. And all your regular packages are going to say granulated sugar. This one says premium pure cane. It's going to cost you more. It's worth it. We're trying to make the very, very best. Back to you, Maestro.
Okay, so that's horchata. I have a half a bottle. If anybody wants it, you're welcome to it. What?
What?
Huh?
What?
Give it to Paula. If you can put it in water, she'll have it.
Okay.
That's what I said. We need rum. Me and Paula will drink it with rum.
Yeah, right. Friday afternoon.
Who? Yes.
So, you say Domino's is pure cane sugar, right? Sometimes they got extra fine sugar. Would it make a difference?
No, you don't need it.
No, I'm just saying, if you happen to pick it up by mistake.
Don't.
It's all going to dissolve very easily. There's also confection. There's also bar sugar, which is finer. It makes no difference. It's all going to dissolve.
Any other questions? How come you haven't asked a question? Yeah. Soaking it all in? Okay. Any other questions? We do, yes.
I might be jumping the gun, but after you get the product out of the back freezer, whether it's a little bit runnier or a little bit thicker, when you have a runnier product, does that mean you have to get it in the freezer quicker then?
Yes,
Like a
you should, because it's starting to melt.
yeah.
The whole idea is speed. That's why we designed the machines to eject faster than any others. It's all about speed, excuse me, and consistency.
But in
So yeah,
reality,
you want to get it in that freezer very quickly.
in reality, I've always had a rolling cart. You put it by the machine, you extract your 6, 7, 8 gallons, You roll it over to the freezer and put it in. It's,
You're talking about like a chest freezer?
yeah.
Okay. So we don't really need to invest right away into like a
Well,
glass freezer?
Steve will tell you his thoughts on that.
The chest freezer is designed for you to bring home frozen green beans and frozen pizzas. The work is already done. They're frozen. So they're already at 5 below, thereabouts, when you bring them home from the supermarket. You throw them into the 10 below chest freezer, which only costs $900, and I highly recommend them when you first start because you're on a very tight budget. You're taking the frozen pizza and putting it into 10 below. No work has to be done by the freezer. It probably won't even come on to maintain it. You're taking 22, 21 degree warm ice cream, quote unquote warm ice cream, and putting it into a chest freezer that was designed to hold already frozen product, and you're asking it to freeze it down to 10 below. It will do it, but it'll only do it if we've got 3 levels of the chest freezer: bottom, middle, high. So today we can fill the bottom level with ice cream, and then we can't make any more ice cream. Because if we put in a second level, that box is going up to 40 degrees and everything melts and then eventually freezes down and you've got a horrible product. So what do? You buy a second chest freezer for $900. Now you can put a bottom level down here and a bottom level over there, and you're finished for the day. Tomorrow you can fill the middle level and the middle level. And tomorrow or the day after that, you can fill the upper level and the upper level, and that's your inventory. That works great until your volume goes up so fast that you need more than those 2 chest freezers, and it takes you 3 days to fill them completely. So when you get to that point, sales cures everything. It's true in any business, whether it's batch freezers or refrigerators or cars. If you've got great sales, it solves all your problems. So when you have great sales in your business, it's not going to be, I don't have room in my 800 square foot store for a 3rd chest freezer, or it's not going to be, I can't afford a 3rd chest freezer. It's going to be, I don't have room for it. So at that point, you buy a machine that is designed to take the heat out of the ice cream. It goes to 25 below zero. It doesn't sit at 25 below. It is pulling down to that. So if I load this up, I always use the example of hot soup. People can relate to hot soup. So if you make 3 gallons of grandma's hot soup and put it in here at 25 below, this box will never go warmer than 15 below zero. It's so powerful, it's sucking the heat out. So at some point in time, your business gets bigger, you buy this. This is a lot more money than $900. But you can afford it because you're being held back by not having inventory. The more inventory you have, the more you can sell. It's not customers, it's inventory. So we can freeze it down to 25 below in probably about 7-8 hours. And we can either leave it here as inventory, or better yet, you already own those 2 chest freezers over there. It's now down to 25 below zero. You couldn't scoop it with a hammer and chisel. We move it out of here, put it in our chest freezer, and that is our inventory. We've just increased our inventory, and then I make more ice cream and freeze it. So this is going to facilitate having more inventory even faster than another batch freezer.
He's ready.
Okay, it's all Jeff.
Someone asked, how do we know it's ready? What I teach in my class is, when you do this, if it maintains a peak in the bottom of the barrel, it's ready. If it oozes down, not quite ready. Although you could take it then too, but I like it a little firmer. Pretty much there, 30 seconds and we're good to go.
If you got 30 seconds left, you can shut the refrigeration off.
Good.
You should.
I don't pay for the electric here. Okay, once again, what are we going to do?
Turn off the freezer.
And what are we going to do then?
Turn it off. Stop the...
Listen
Listen.
for the compressor to go off. Very important. It'll always go up, but just get in the habit.
If you don't do this, I get the phone call. Christy gets the phone call
block
that my
of ice.
machine stopped. That's what we hear. My machine stopped.
Yeah.
And then we have to go back to when did it last run right and all this, and we find out that they forgot to turn off the refrigeration switch, and it just kept getting colder and colder while they're pulling the product out, and so everything freezes up. So that's a very simple trick of Jeff's. Just wait till you hear the compressor go off.
A little thing that Steve had taught me with raisins, although I love raisins and they're very good, but Steve had done what my daughter calls a cereal ice cream with grape nuts and golden raisins. But he took the raisins and he put them in the dairy mix. He took some of that mix out, put it into a container, and all the raisins he was going to use for his formula, he put them in there and let it sit for a couple of days. Those raisins plumped up with that dairy mix and became so juicy. And now
So what?
Juicy.
Oh,
And I like it that way. The raisins like this are very good, but they're still in a raisin shape and form. You know, they're on the pruny side and chewier. So just another thought. I know, your ice cream though.
I learned that one from my uncle. He used to make rum raisin ice cream. He also loved his rum. And so Uncle June, Emery Thompson Jr., and they called him June. That was fun when people would come to visit. Oh, I'm going to meet with June today. And they said, what do you want? That was Uncle June. Uncle June used to take the raisins to make rum raisin ice cream and pour a bottle of Bacardi rum over them. And he said you then had to put the whole thing in the refrigerator, and for the next 5 days, let it sit there and let them plump up. And every evening when you come home, you should take a little bit and taste it to see how they're doing. Well, by the time 4.5 days was gone, he'd taken so many little tastes of it, there was no more raisins or rum to make the rum raisin ice cream. But it made good sense.
And I have made rum raisin ice cream doing the same thing, soaking the raisins in rum for a few days. They're very potent, I'll say that.
There's little quirks like that about all our formulas. That when you're making our Oreo cookie Italian ice or Oreo cookie ice cream, and it calls for, you bought them. Wow. Hey, Jeff.
oh, too late.
Too late?
Too late.
Okay.
But next time.
My recipe is mathematically down, very precise, so that when you're adding all the cookies into the machine, there are enough cookies left over for the operator making the ice cream to eat 3 Oreo cookies. Because you can't open a bag of Oreo cookies without taking one. So it's already baked into the, excuse the pun, baked into the recipe.
Yeah, it's fun when you're putting them in the machine because you're like, bloop, one for you, bloop, one
Yeah.
for me.
And one one falls on the floor. Whew, 5-second rule.
Very
How
true.
is it? You done good?
I like it.
I gotta try it.
It's good. I would have preferred the raisins plumped, but that's just my preference.
Steve, I know you talk about, the differences of, $900 test freezer, but what is a machine like that? What should you expect to be kind of looking at as far as the glass freezer is paying?
The price is going up from the manufacturer, so I'm going to say it's going to be about $11,000, which is a lot of money.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to increasing your inventory, it's going to be crucial. You can't do it with the chest freezers unless you've got a lot of space. And like I said in the beginning, all these stores are getting smaller because the rent's going up. You can't argue the rent, not very successfully, so you shrink the store.
I know those Nelson and like Masterbuilt dipping cabinets.
Yeah.
They get pretty cold too, from what I've been doing research on. But can you will that get the product colder than the chest freezer type?
No, if it's a dipping cabinet, there's one behind you that is used for serving ice cream.
Yeah.
That has to be at +6 degrees.
Okay. So
Because-
that's for scooping temperature.
Yeah.
And then they also have I think they also have a chest freezer too, right?
I don't know, but a good example is True, True.
Yeah.
They make upright freezers. It's upright like this with glass doors. We use them to have pints of ice cream for sale where the customer can see it.
Yeah.
And they can go to 10 below or even colder. But the thing is, they can go to 10 below until you put that 5 gallons of hot soup into it. And then it goes up to 40. So if you take, you've got a couple hundred pints in here, and you take them out tonight and put them in the true the true vertical for tomorrow, the customer is going to be able to take home a very frozen product, so it doesn't melt on the way home, but it's not going to pull it down. It's not designed to do that. It's not its intent. It has to be called a hardening cabinet, blast freezer, or flash freezer. And there's only this one on the market. Masterbuilt used to make them. Masterbuilt went out of business. Kelvinator makes them, but I think they have a 10-month waiting period. And then the Italians make little tiny ones about that big that cost as much as this whole thing. And all they do is hold 2 gelato pans. And that doesn't do anything for you. They do it because they just want to quick freeze it for 2 hours and then put it in the cabinet. Well, you can't do that with 15 flavors. So eventually you'll need it. But when I design a store with you, and I work for free, and I work 7 days a week, when I'm designing a store with you, and I'm not an architect, I'm not doing layouts, or I'm not doing drawings, but I can say, you don't put the batch freezer next to the sink because the health department says you're going to splash water into the ice cream and ruin it. So that's why there's a barrier there. Little things like that. But when we're laying it out, I'm going to lay out your store on one basic premise, is you don't have a lot of money, but your store is going to grow. So to give you an example, this machine, and then we're going to take a break. This machine runs on a 20 amp circuit. This runs on a 40 amp circuit. The wire is heavier for this machine than that in the walls. So when I'm opening up the walls and running there, and I only have this machine, instead of putting in a wire size for a 20 amp machine, I'm going to run a wire for a 40 amp machine. It cost me $75 to buy the heavier wire, but it's there. So someday, when you pull this out, you just plug in the other machine. So that's the kind of way that I save people. And limiting the number of flavors. And if they have to stand out in the street to get your ice cream, what could be better? I mean, people see a line and they say, I mean, the British are famous for this. They call it a queue. They see a line and they get on it. I don't know what it is, but it must be good. Well, it's a firing squad. So let's see what you're making, Christy. You're making
Mimosa.
Mimosa. Oh, boy. Hey. A little alcohol.
I think I'm going to get a little bit bigger one. What do you think? This one bigger?
Yes.
Yes.
6 quart.
Okay. Going in circles. All right, so first we need, what, 2 pounds of sugar?
Oh, sorry. I don't have my list. Let me look over here.
Steve, try to contribute here.
I try, Jeff. It's cutting into my nap time, which is preceded by counting the money and then followed by counting the money.
Ooh.
Yesterday afternoon, I tried to transfer $200 million, and the bank said, no, I'm sorry, you don't have that. So I put in $195 million, and they said, still you don't have it. And then I looked at it carefully and I go, oh, I added 2 extra zeros. I hate computers. Okay, Mimosa, 2 quarts of orange juice.
Here we go.
2 quarts of sparkling champagne. Woohoo!
Oops.
Half a cup of orange liqueur and 2 pounds of sugar. Do you want me to measure the sugar?
I already did.
You already did. Okay.
So who remembers science class? And champagne and sugar kind of go kaboom. All right, so we're going to put our... we'll do it slow. So we're going to do our 2 quarts of champagne. How many ladies like to get up and go get the bottomless mimosas? Anyone? Anyone? Wow, me? Okay, hey.
Bottomless mimosas? Where's that?
Yeah. A lot of places. So we gotta let it foam down.
Somebody asked about the disposable tops right there. Could you pass that back to him for me?
Alrighty. And then we're going to do 2 quarts of orange juice. That's all I'm adding, right? Is the champagne, orange juice, and sugar?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, and then some...
And the liqueur.
So you can use, triple sec. You can do Grand Marnier, our off-brand, which is this Grand Gala. That's completely fine too. Now we talked about sugar content, didn't we?
Yep.
What am I adding? Orange juice, full of sugar. Adding 2 pounds of sugar, full of sugar. So we're going to look at a pretty high freeze time, especially since it's going to be the first batch. And we also have alcohol in here too. So it says a half a cup. I'm going to pull a Jeff. Okay. All right, so let's do it slowly because I don't want this to go foaming. It shouldn't. We're good. If you were to add the sugar with the champagne, it would start going like a volcano. Now, you don't have to completely dissolve your sugar with your whatever you're making, your water, if you're just doing Italian ice and you're not using any of this. But it's a good idea. For one, it doesn't act like a sandpaper. So if you pour straight sugar into the machine, it can act like a sandpaper. Your blades will be fine. You will not have to replace your blades in 6 months. But over time, if that's all you're making is just Italian ice, then you can start adding a little more extra wear on your blades. It's really not necessary. Plus, it kind of goes down in the machine a little bit better because sugar can stick to, once again, like the throat and all of that. So just giving it a good little stir is good enough. Okay, make sure our gate is closed, and here we go.
The competitors' blades last 4 to 6 months, usually 4 months. Ours go 5 years on average running. Now, if you're running it, like instead of you're driving your car to and from work, you're using it as a taxi or a police car. Obviously you're going to change the oil more often. So if you're doing 24 hours a day of Italian ice, you might get 3 years life out of your blades. But the average is 5.
Sorry. And then I'm just going to go ahead and start my refrigeration. I don't need to taste test it. I already know what it's going to taste like because I have a CB200 at home and I've already tried out the formula. Now, a lot of people think that you have to use water whenever you're making a sorbet or an Italian ice. That is not true. You can use just straight juice. If you want to make an orange Italian ice, 4 quarts of this and 2 pounds of sugar. That is it. And it is the most smoothest, sweetest, creamiest orange Italian ice you've ever had in your life. Get the one with the high pulp because it looks really good when your customers have that. It looks like you kind of squeeze the oranges yourself with all that extra pulp in there. You can make a pineapple orange Italian ice doing exactly half orange juice, half pineapple juice. You can do a cream of coconut or a coconut pineapple Italian ice with pineapple juice and cream of coconut. Possibilities are endless. You don't always have to have water into your Italian ice. Now, I'm going to let Steve explain the difference between Italian ice and a sorbet because that's one of his favorite things to do.
Okay, but first I was going to tell him about this, how you're always telling people that you've got this machine at home.
Yes.
Never mess with a good negotiator. I go to Christy and I say, would you like a raise or would you like a CB200 for your home? And she said, oh, I'll take the CB200. So great, she gets a brand new CB200 in her home. And then 2 months later, she says, hey, Steve, you've noticed probably that I'm coming up with all your new formulas that you're making videos out of. Now I'm ready for the raise. Okay, I win. Sorbet and Italian ice. Yes, it's my favorite story. Do we have a squeeze cup around?
Yes.
Thank you. A lot of people, especially if they're from Italy, will tell you, oh, no, Italian ice is different from sorbet. It's just completely different. I don't try to do an Italian accent. And I say, okay, well, let me see. You're making lemon sorbet, I'm making lemon Italian ice. My lemon sorbet, my lemon Italian ice in the 24-quart machine, 7 pounds of sugar, 14 quarts of water, 2 quarts of lemon juice. Your lemon sorbet is 7 pounds of sugar, 14 quarts of water, 2 quarts of lemon juice. Same thing, just a change in the name from Italian ice to sorbet. The difference is we're getting $3 for this 4 ounces, actually going to be 5 ounces of Italian ice in here, $3. Here we're selling it in a fancy restaurant and putting it in a champagne glass and putting a little slice of lemon in it, and we're going to get $9 for it. $3 versus $9, same stuff. So you can call it whatever you want. I have acquiesced to, I went to school in a place called Winter Park, Florida. It's a beautiful little city outside of Orlando, and they have an art festival every year. So I've got a friend, Ricky Aripas, down in Miami, and he sells Ricky's Italian Ice. Well, when he comes up to Winter Park, Florida, all of a sudden it's Ricky's Fresh Fruit Sorbet. I think he's thinking of changing it to Ricardo's Fresh Fruit Sorbet, but it's the same thing. So wherever you are, it's sugar, water, and flavor. What does change, though, is in New York we call it Italian ice. In Philadelphia they call it Italian water ice. And everybody says, oh, the water ice, it's completely different, it's smoother, it's creamier. And the answer is yes, it is. Because my formula in New York is 7 pounds of sugar. When I go down the Jersey Turnpike to Philadelphia, it becomes 8 pounds of sugar. The extra pound of sugar doesn't necessarily make it sweeter in a 6-gallon batch, but it does make it smoother and creamier. So if you want a smoother, creamier Italian ice, you add more sugar. If you go to Bay 8th Street in Brooklyn, where everybody only speaks Italian, they're selling something called granita or granite, and it's a very coarse Italian ice. So it's not 8 pounds of sugar in Philadelphia. It's not 7 pounds in the Bronx. It's in a certain section of Brooklyn, and it's 6 pounds of sugar. More sugar, smoother, less sugar, more crystalline structure. And that's it. You now know all the secrets about Italian ice that there are. And there's just nothing more. I give it all away for free at my website. We have almost 600 of these videos of you, me, and Jeff.
Well, I'm only in the last 5 years.
You're only in the last 400.
Yeah.
But they're there for free. They're there for the watching. You're going to hear some of Jeff's and mine's same old corny jokes and his magic tricks. You're going to hear us fight like cats and dogs, because as you watch these videos, you'll see I am always right and Jeff is always wrong.
Before you walk up with that glass.
Yes. Someone said the other day, he asked if we were brothers.
Oh.
I said, look at that ugly
That's
mug.
different.
He can't be a brother to me.
So this one, when you want to do like a wine sorbet, like he was discussing in these little fancy glasses. Now this one I do use water because it's wine, so it's equal parts wine and water, and then your sugar, and then I also have thrown in there fruit. So it's a berry wine sorbet. That recipe is also in that book. You can also make a wine slush, which is holding it at a slightly warmer temperature than the rest of yours. And you can put it in this and serve $9, especially if you're at an event or a festival. We always know you charge more at events and festivals. Kills you to pay $12 for that funnel cake, but you buy it, right? Everybody buys it. So you can do the same concept with that, sort of charge more for just events that you go to.
So we sell these machines not only to stores, we put them in a lot of trucks, but also, especially out in California, into wine bars where they're selling different wines and cheese. And while they're having taste testings, they're also doing Christie's recipe for the Bordeaux wine sorbet. So it gives you an extra thing to offer in your store. Great for take-home pints. You're having the Thompsons over for dinner, and you have a couple of pints of red wine sorbet for dessert. Very unique. Nobody else has it. It's terrific.
There's a big holiday, ice cream for breakfast. That is a huge hit with store owners, and that's where they come up with ice cream flavors that are cereal based, like Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Fruit Loops, Fruity Pebbles, Pop-Tarts. You can even add something like this. It's a mimosa. Everybody knows you drink those. Even Cracker Barrel starts selling those now. Mimosas for breakfast. So you can even add that to your menu. Possibilities are really endless. You can change it up and make it your own. You could throw in some fresh oranges if you wanted to, some raspberries or blackberries. Anything you can think of, you can put right into the machine.
And that's really unique. No other machine is like that. I've done trade shows where we're all making the same product, and all the Italian machines, which is everybody else, even names that that sound American, they're Italian. And they're adding pureed bananas outside the machine for a product, and I'm sitting there peeling a banana and just dropping it right in the machine. I'm taking a whole bag of almonds and throwing it right in the machine, let the machine grind them up. One little trick there, if you are working with nuts, like almonds, you're going to pay a premium for whole almonds and putting them into a machine that's going to break them up into quarters. Why spend the extra money? Buy the almond pieces and throw them in. They're already broken up. They saved you maybe half, and the machine can certainly handle it. Do we have another minute or two?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
I
yeah.
just want to show you a couple of things. Jeff has a book that is a time-honored tradition, Mystic Ice Cream Original Recipes. This is a whole ice cream business in a book. And it's not just the recipes that Jeff is offering you, because if you watch our videos, he never gives you the full recipe. It's a little bit of this and a little bit of that. But they're all in here. And this has been a real mainstay for a lot of people to get into business. And you can see Jeff after class, or you can reach him at xhippie@aol.com. Xhippie is spelled XHIPPEE. You know, those of us in the 60s, we don't remember the 60s. We also can't spell. So xhippie@aol.com to order the book. Christy has come up with a cookbook of her own based on her CB200 that she got for free from the company. And this is all her latest recipes, and they're all broken down into the different sizes machines that we get. So you don't have to do the math to figure out which machine you're using to do it. And these are very up-to-date, very trendy formulas. And it's also a history of Emery Thompson. I'm a storyteller, and so I've been telling these stories all these years, and Christy's written them down, and she's put them into books. Things like about the time that we tried to make a 10 pizza at once pizza oven, and it knocked my uncle flat when he tried to open it because he got hit in the head and in the gut by the gull wing doors. How we had, we were on all the Navy ships, all the aircraft carriers during World War II. And if you were an unfortunate pilot and went into the drink, the destroyers would rush to save you, not out of the goodness of their heart, but because whatever destroyer got to the pilot and saved the pilot first got 5 gallons of ice cream that night from the aircraft carrier. And so there's a lot of that in here too, so it's a lot of fun, a lot of great recipes, and you can see Christy after this, or if you're watching this, it's Christy@emerythompson.com. So we got 2 great offerings here.
So we're almost at the 11 minutes. What do you guys think? Yay, nay? Come on, guys, help me out here. Too soon? Okay, let's see. Good job. Very good.
Because of all the extra sugar.
Looks good. It's very high in sugar. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, did you just press the selection for this? You pressed, is it Italian ice?
You can push Italian ice. I just pushed whatever, and that's a very good question. So the reason is because it's just juice and sugar and alcohol. There is no expansion. So you can run this super fast, you can run it super slow. It's still going to come out the same amount that you pretty much put in. There's only going to be a little bit. And I kind of explain it this way. If you take a bowl of orange juice and sugar with a whisk, you whisk it very fast, nothing's going to happen. It's still going to be the same thing, orange juice and some sugar. If you were to take heavy whipping cream, which your dairy mix, and you pour it into a bowl with some sugar and you whisk that very fast, now you've got homemade whipped cream. And that's because of the fat content in the dairy that's making it expand. That's where your overrun comes into play, which is what this machine can do. So you can make it super fast and make it, whisk really, really, really fast to make fluffy ice cream. You can slow it way down to make a very, thick and heavy ice cream like a gelato or a custard. Italian ice or anything that's fruit-based, water-based, dairy-free, doesn't matter what setting you really run it at. There is an Italian ice setting, but don't have to use it if you don't want to.
The other thing is these are the only machines on the market, my machines, that you can put alcohol into the machine. Alcohol freezes at somewhere around 230 below 0 Fahrenheit. So the alcohol never freezes, but it stays in suspension. In any other machine, there is not enough refrigeration power to hold the alcohol in suspension. So they have to stir it in as they're coming out, and then you end up with a watery sorbet or a watery ice cream. We can pour the alcohol right in here. You've seen in other videos, Jeff's there going glug, 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 glug. It's
a whole bottle of Fireball.
Bottle of Fireball, yeah. That was a good one. And we can do it because the machine is so strong, it will stay in suspension and you'll be able to serve it. So that's a big plus. When people started finding out that they could put alcohol in their Emery Thompsons, we were hearing words like alcohol-infused ice cream. And I thought, boy, that is just a little too highbrow for me. I'm from the Bronx. But one lady called up one day and said, hey, can I make Boozy ice cream? And the name, I said, that's perfect. You get a smile on your face, Boozy ice cream. It just sounds terrific, and yes, we can. I make Grand Marnier liqueur, which is an orange liqueur, at Christmas time. We can make peppermint schnapps. We make rum raisin. There isn't anything that you can't do with alcohol, and it's a lot of fun. Of course, you put up a sign that says you must be 21 years of age or older to purchase this ice cream, and that's wonderful too because we're going to charge more for it because of the alcohol, and now we can have a separate signboard. So it's a real plus.
These are fun. So I've actually experimented with these. These are also some really great ideas for to-go. This is the smaller one. They're not the most cutest thing to look at, but you can always make a label and stick right here. So I made an orange Italian ice, which was just orange juice and sugar. And, you know, living in Florida, naturally, we go to the beach. So I packed it into one of these, and I put it in the bottom of my cooler with some ice packs and the rest of my drinks that I had. And I was about 6 hours on the beach before I decided to pull this out and test it and see how well this Italian ice held up. It was just like I took it right out of the freezer from home. So these are amazing. These are great selling points, you know, especially if you're in a touristy area. If you want to even just cater to those that want to take ice cream, their favorite ice cream, to mom and dad that lives a couple hours down the road. They know it's not going to melt too bad on them or even at all. These you get from Gelato Supply. Once again, you mentioned Emery Thompson, you get that 10% discount. They have different sizes available. Just get some labels made and stick on the top there and work out great. All right, let's check this. So we're at 15 minutes. Let's see where we're at. What do we think? It formed a little peak. Yay? Nay? I think we can pull it. Well, it melted some. See that stiff? It looks pretty good to me, so I think we can go ahead and pull her out. Let's do the... Oh yeah. So we're going to turn that off. And here we go.
And look at that color. That's all natural. There's no artificial anything in there. And see how fast it comes out of the machine.
Now, when I made that s'more ice cream, you saw how I used 2 of these, right? That's because of the overrun, the expansion. This is just juice and alcohol. There's not really expansion, so we only need the 1 tub.
That's still 6 liters.
Yes. This is going to be amazing.
I love the color.
Yes.
Any questions while we're serving this up? Okay. We're going to do questions answered after this, so I hope you come up with some questions. Otherwise, we're just going to talk.
I mean, honestly, I'm just trying to soak all in, quite frankly.
So you mentioned how you put some of those CB300, 350s in like trucks and trailers.
All the time.
So what type of horsepower is not going to, is going to be best? Probably a 10 kilowatt generator, or is that overkill?
Hey, Mike, do you recall what we use for a generator in a truck with a CB350?
CB350 requires 4,400 watts. That should be your running wattage, not your peak watts.
Okay, that's our senior tech. If you have a problem, you will end up talking to Mike McDonald. And just like that, he knows everything.
Okay, so like probably a 10 kilowatt hour will definitely be enough for even those peak moments as you're probably making it too, right?
I'm sorry, say again?
So a 10 kilowatt hour generator should be plenty as you're making the ice cream to handle the peak loads.
Absolutely. Actually, all you need is about 6,500 running peak watts, and you're still good.
Okay.
Now here's the thing. When you're running a truck, you're not going to be making ices or ice cream while you're out on the road running the truck. You're serving customers. You don't have time for it, and you still have the time lag. It's got to be made, and then it's got to be frozen. So it's more likely you're going to make the product and store it in freezers, and then when you go out on the road, you'll take that product with you. There's a lot of towns in Florida. We have gated communities. We have fenced in. We're big at fencing everything in. And they're not going to let you make Italian ices or ice cream in your home. However, when you get your truck certified, it is the physical vehicle, the truck, that gets the license. So that's really important. You can park that truck in front of City Hall and make Italian ice. You can park it at the beach and make Italian ice because the truck has the license. Now, I'm not a lawyer, so don't hold me to this, but it would seem to me that if I was in a gated community and I'm parking my truck in my driveway, I could be making ice cream and ices in my truck and then step out of the truck and carry the ices over to my freezers in my garage. And when I need flavor, subs and sugar, I could go into my garage and bring it into the truck.
Sure.
And I'm not really breaking any rules, but it would make it a lot easier. But that's something to consider.
Yeah, that's why I can go down that path of the truck or trailer concept, because, you know, making it, you can't make it in your house, you know, and I don't, you know, you're not going to bring an expensive machine like that into a commissary kitchen and trust that, you know, it's open to the public, right?
We were in a neighborhood in the Bronx that we would, our factory hours were 8 a.m. to 4:30, and then we would go home. So that's not the greatest time in the world for having an ice cream parlor. However, during those 8 hours, I could have set up a cart in front of my factory door and sold Italian ice all day, probably made $1,000 a day because there were so many people there. You don't need the richest location in the most expensive town. You need a safe location with good traffic, and if you can, parking. That's what I'd be looking for. So now we're going to make the dairy-free, which is going to be our last ice cream of the day and my favorite. Oh, and by the way, it doesn't look so bad out there. This is Florida. If you look out this way, it looks like the end of the world. I mean, it's just nighttime out there. Okay. We're going to use the 24-quart machine, so it's going to call for 10 quarts of the dairy-free mix. This comes two ways. This is Meadowvale. This is Meadowvale, a company out of Illinois that ships to 40 states in the United States. It's shipped to you frozen, and it's a fantastic dairy-free product. It's a coconut blend, and extremely good. I also use a product that she calls Mami'sGelato.com, but it's spelled MAMIS, which is the Italian spelling. So it's MAMISGelato.com. That's it there. And that's a powder, and that comes either coconut or the oat, either way. You just mix it with water and put your flavor in, and you're good to go. One little trick with the Mami's, at least on the oat, is I add about 10% more of the powder, or take about 10% of the water out. I want a little more intense flavor, so I adjust it, but that'll be up to you. So this whole thing's going in, and like Jeff said, you grab it by the neck and take the lid off. So if you're right-handed, you do this with your left hand, because I just tried to do it the other way, and I found it wasn't even working.
So this is a 10-quart bladder that we can put inside of a 24-quart. Now, it's capable of 24 quarts, but it's 10 quarts, so if you double it, it makes 20 quarts. Traditionally, people do not open up another bladder just to pour 2 more quarts in there so you can make the full yield of the 24. They just stick with the 10 quarts and go about their day. I am a huge fan of Meadowvale's Dairy Mix because it does come in a bladder. It is very smooth, it is very creamy, but it's not shelf-stable like a Mommy's Gelato. Mommy's Gelato does have 4 different flavors, actually, and They're really great because they can ship anywhere just about. It's shelf stable for like a year, I believe is what it is. It's very cost effective and it can cater just to about anybody. Now the Meadowvale's mix is a coconut background. So anything that you make with this, it has to complement that coconut. This is why we picked peaches and raspberry. It complements coconut very well. Mommy's Gelato has one called almond ice and a outrageous, which is the one that's being passed around. The outrageous is oat-based, which means there's going to be no background taste. You can make anything you want with it, Oreos, a strawberry ice cream, whichever, and it will be just tasted like that. So that's when that one definitely comes in handy. Meadowvale's doesn't have any of that. It's all coconut.
So these are raspberries that we picked up at the supermarket. I love using frozen fruit because it was picked at the height of freshness and then instantly frozen. There is no syrups or anything in here. And I'm using the store brand. Our store here is called Publix, as opposed to using Dole Pineapple, and other companies do the same thing where they put the fruit in that. But Dole Pineapple is going to be, if you're serving raspberries as a dessert and putting it in that champagne glass from this morning. They are prettier looking, but it's still excellent. It's very excellent fruit, but you're paying for the appearance. Whereas this is perfectly fresh frozen raspberries, but they're not maybe going to look as nice. And since it's going into the ice cream and they're going to get ground up, it doesn't matter how they look. But when you go down the ice cream aisle of your supermarket, at the top of the aisle will be frozen raspberries, blueberries, mango, cherries, everything you could ever want. And it's so much better than the way we used to do it when we bought it in what was called a number 10 tin can. It was about that big. It looked like a big soup can. And it had strawberries in it, red dye 40, enough chemicals to pickle you for the rest of your life, and corn syrup. And that's what we called strawberry ice cream.
Yeah.
It would be comparable to roadkill versus a filet mignon.
And it's
Both are great, but
it's kind of hard to see, but when I love frozen fruit too over fresh, because when it does thaw, like I said, it's kind of hard. It creates its own natural syrup in the bottom of the bag. Use that. Use it for anything you make in your ice creams, your Italian ices, your sorbets, whichever. It's really, really, really good.
Hey, Mike,
Yes?
am I correct that this would be called IQF, Instant Quick Frozen?
More than likely, there's a few varieties.
Okay, thank you. So you hear that term IQF, that's what they're talking about.
And you can use any peaches. I prefer this one because I'm partial to it. My great-grandfather used to make a peach cobbler. Lazy Man peach cobbler is what he called it, with cans of biscuits. And these peaches, exactly. So you can use canned if you want. I like to buy it in the 100% juice, not the syrup. Syrup is very heavy. It's kind of more artificial. If it's in 100% juice, and it just helps you with your more all-natural. And you can pour that in there too. Don't need to drain the peaches. Peaches are very soft, so they're going to break down very nicely in the machine. There'll probably be some good little chunks, but for the most part, they'll break down very nicely. There are some fruits that do have a hard time, like mangoes and cantaloupe. They don't break down very well because they're very hard.
Didn't you want to
Yeah,
have
Miss
an
Bianca,
assistant?
you want to help? Come on.
We picked the person who has traveled the farthest,
She is
About-
all the way from Qatar.
about 14 hours.
So you're just going to take the peaches and just dump it right in the machine.
Great. Okay, so if I put it well, I hold it up high.
Yes,
so
right.
Then
Let me see if you have a spatula, if you need one.
You can try banging it.
yeah.
Here you go.
There they go.
There you go.
My kids were raised on Sesame Street. One customer
And you can
called
use a
up,
spatula
and he
to-
said,
oh, it
I
did
have
go
a
down. Look at that.
5-year-old and
You're
a
good then.
3-year-old, and I set them in front of the TV and have them watch your videos all day when I'm working from home. And he said he walked past them one day, and the 5-year-old saying to the 3-year-old, "Now don't try this with any other machine." About trying to put whole fruit in it, and I thought, wow, I have really arrived.
And then just
I'm
turn
being
that on?
compared to Sesame Street.
that's-
I thought that was
that's
pretty
it.
good. Okay, now we start the timer.
And that's it. We wait
that's
until
it.
it's done.
Fantastic.
That's it.
Thank you.
It's fun, huh?
It is very fun. I have to get
Graham crackers.
Huh? No, that was Jeff. He was going to put that in his banana Fosters.
Okay.
Any questions?
So now there's a timer that's gonna start to work, or
Yes, it's up to 24 seconds right
As
now.
soon as you hit this refrigeration button, then the timer starts. Because it's kind of silly to have it start when you got the dasher on, because you could be doing what we're doing. And as I like to say, Jeff likes to make love to the machine for a good 10 minutes before he starts it.
And we learn as we go along because we used to do it silly. You would
Yeah.
turn on this, and the timer would start. Wait a minute, I'm already at 6 minutes, and I haven't even started
Yeah.
freezing yet. But
so now we know everything mostly about the 350. Can we know the price of 12 quart or 20?
Not on camera, because 10 years from now they're going to call up and say, hey, you said the price of the machine was this. So off camera we can.
we also do something that nobody else does. We sell direct. Two things. We sell direct, not through dealers. That saves you a 33% markup of the dealer. And we show our direct-to-you prices right at our website, emerythompson.com.
Yes.
Christy started up a new feature. You tell about it, about how you can get a quote.
Oh, yes. You could just get a quote online instantly. It comes from yours truly. So it's not going to be like an instant as soon as you fill out the info. It's just a quick, name, address, or not address, your zip code, what machine you're looking for, and then give me the next day. If it's over the weekend, obviously, and to come until Monday. And of course, you can always just send me an email direct, or even Steve if you don't want to go on there and do that. But it's super easy. You can do it at 2 o'clock in the morning, but I'm not going to respond to you though. If I'm awake, I have done that before actually.
If you like fast, quick, short answers, contact Christy. If you want a good story elaborated out 5 or 6 hours, call me.
That's very true. I could do I just hit my mic. I could do 4 calls to his one. And he's venturing all over with his headset. It's quite fun to watch. And then you got to go work around him in the kitchen.
So does this screen give us any temperature of the machine or of the batch or of the
No.
No.
That's not really necessary. You're making ice cream. It's not science. A lot of other people will say, oh, the molecules, and you need to know the temperature. It has to discharge and come out at this precise. As Steve likes to say, I think that's getting into the weeds. You're making ice cream. Nobody's going to come back because your air content was fantastic. Nobody's going to come back because the discharge temp was perfect when it came out. They're coming back because you had great vanilla. They came back because you had great Superman.
Yes.
Yeah, so the metal valve pouch, is that a 2.5 gallon?
Yes, it is.
So
Yes.
what's the price look like from when you were looking at that versus the Mommy's Gelato? Because I think I saw on mine like Mommy's Gelato was like $50 some a pack versus what's something like this look
Well,
like?
I don't.
Sorry.
I don't get into the exact prices because
Rough.
everything changes.
Yeah.
So Meadowvale does have distributors. So it's not going to be the same price to us as it's going to be to the people that's in Oregon or in, Wisconsin. That's going to be different. And, the cost and the factors of how much it takes to get there. Eddie's contact is on that number, or is on your paper for this formula. He knows me very well. I consider him one of my BFFs. So if you want to tell him Christy from Emery Thompson sent you, he'll know, hands down, he'll know exactly who I am. And he'll do just about what he can to help. He's a really, really, really great guy. And Mommy's Gelato's info is also in your packet. Fenora and Amy are beautiful people. You can also name drop, as well. They know us very, very well. So definitely reach out to them if you're looking for the dairy-free. I'm a person that doesn't like to turn away a customer for any reasons whatsoever, and I would hate for anybody to walk out of my store or my business because I didn't have something that catered to them. I'm not saying turn half of your flavors into dairy-free, but have something, that's 1 or 2 flavors. And even peanuts. Peanuts is a huge allergy, very, very common. Even nuts in general. We have a lady that works here who has an allergy to pistachios, and my daughter has an allergy to walnuts. So if it was my store, once again, not saying you have to, I would keep your nuts separate, and I've even seen people have them pre-packaged in individual packages. So it's not cross-contaminating with anything in your store. So if somebody asks, do you have nuts? Sure do, and you can hand them a little, 1 ounce package of some nuts to put on top their self. So just always be mindful of those things too when you're making ice cream. And like we talked about, peanut butter, anything with nuts in your machine, save it for the last and strip that machine down and clean it out. Last thing you want, is to send somebody home. Any other questions? No? We're at 6 minutes. We still got a couple more minutes. So the Meadowvale's Dairy Free is a tapioca based. So you can kind of see it looks a little bit thicker and chunkier than the normal dairy. Tapioca naturally thickens up on its own. So whenever you do thaw this dairy free mix, you'll have to use it within a day or two because it'll start to thicken up. It'll still run in the machine, but it's like you're pouring, cottage cheese, like chut, 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 chut. It's a great formula. So is Mommy's. They actually just came out with another one, a matcha base. I haven't tried it yet. It's on my to-do list, so I'm excited for that one.
Jeff is heading off to that place where ice cream professionals go, wherever that is. No. So, how about a round of applause for Jeff? All right, Jeff.
You still have a couple more minutes. Any? Feel like you guys are making this too easy for us. No. Anybody have? Well, I guess we haven't tried this one yet. But anybody have a favorite flavor so far? I know we were -1. They all sucked.
Yeah, no, I love your s'mores. The s'mores is good.
Yeah.
That's the first one.
As long as the food manager's course and the food handler's course.
Well, that I don't know. I've never taken that. That would be a good Jeff question.
What was that?
Food handler's course. How long does it take? That's definitely not us.
Hey, Jeff, the food handler's course. Is that a correspondence course? Do you go somewhere?
No, you have to take it in person.
Okay.
Actually, I think they do it online, but I've taken it in person. It's given all around the state.
How long does it take? Yeah, is it a one-day course? How long do you have to?
Well, I studied for a week each time I took it. It's very intense. Because it's not geared towards ice cream. Everybody takes it. The people who work in Macaroni Grill and Buffalo Wild Wings, they all take it too. There is no segment of ice cream. That's why it was difficult. It's stuff like, where do you store ground beef in a freezer? Well, it's good to know, and of course you store it on the bottom so it doesn't drip on your other products. But be that as it may. It's all, and it has the lumens. How many lumens? Yeah, it's an intense course. But you know what? When you pass, you feel pretty damn good about yourself. You do, you pass. And they give you a certificate that you hang in your shop. The law, although I don't really think it applies, the law says that there's a food manager's course and a food handler's course. And the law says that somebody in your facility has to have passed the food manager's course. Somebody in your facility at all times has to be a food handler. But as far as I know, no inspector has ever, it's on the wall, but nobody has said anything. I don't know, I guess I should find out how much of a law it really is. The FDA, I don't know if it's a law or a way for them to make money.
I'll tell you what, you and I will research it for the next class in August, and we'll have the answers for you on the food handler's course. Would you like to come up and help us pull the ice cream out?
But it's not expensive.
Ready?
Maybe it's $1.50 or something.
Here's your handy dandy spatula. So we're going to turn off your refrigeration.
And then we're going to have you turn to the side over that way so that people can see.
So turn that off.
Turn that off and then wait till the compressor goes off.
Now you're going to grab that and you're going to slowly pull it up. When you do, it's going to start coming out. You can adjust it to the speed.
Okay, here we go. We're letting it out.
There
Keep going.
you go.
A little more.
Use your spatula. There you go. Close it. Very good. Here's the next container. I'll swap you. All right, Steve will take over from
You can
there.
pull it, raise it all the way. It's going to come out. And the trick is to shut it off before it gets to the top. Now, look at that. You're a pro. You did that better than I do. Wow. Okay. A little bit more. Bye, Jeff. Okay. A little bit over the edge here. Catch that. Good. And looks like we need one more. Okay. Take that for you. And the last one.
Look at how much ice cream came out from a
Yeah.
whole bladder. Whoops.
When I first did dairy-free, because I'm a type 1 diabetic, not supposed to have sugar, I made this product, and the first time I made it, I enjoyed it so much. It was one morning that I had 3 portions of it. So by the time lunch came around, I wasn't full. The next thing we know, because it had no effect on me and I hadn't eaten anything, I'm flat on the ground in my office, and my staff tells me that I was waving my arm saying proof of concept because I was out cold from a low blood sugar because it hadn't raised it. So it's a fantastic product. Okay, now you're going to hit stop. Good. Nice job. Very good. Yeah. There we go.
Thank you. I'm good. You can stick it in there. Whoop, just going in that one. Thanks. So when you eat this, you're going to notice that it has a coconut background to it. You're not eating predominantly coconut, but you can tell that it's there. So when you do work with dairy-free, you have to make sure that it'll complement it. And Oreos do not complement coconut. It's kind of like yuck.
It's delicious. And it's hard to say that some ice creams aren't refreshing, but when you get up around the 14, 16% butterfat level, 16%, it can be that it leaves you thirsty. That's why old-fashioned ice cream parlors back in the 20s would hand you a dish of ice cream and a glass of water. That won't happen with this. This is extremely refreshing because there is just no dairy in it. It really solves a lot of problems for people. Now, you asked, a gentleman asked before about the cost. On average, it's about 1/3 more than what a dairy blend would be. So if a gallon of ice cream mix comes out to about $12, it would be 1/3 more than that. So you price your products accordingly. It's going to cost you more, so you have the dairy-free listed separately so that people know that.
Well, that is the end of all. Yes, ma'am.
What flavors
This is great stuff.
do they have?
They carry anything from 10% regular mix up to, I think, 19% butterfat. And then they also have a custard, they have a soft serve, they have a dairy-free. They have a clean label, which means it's 100% all natural ingredients, and that's a 16% butterfat. I've used that one as well. It's a very great. They're a very honest company. It's 100% employee owned. It's not corporate owned, and they're probably one of my favorite dairy mix companies to work with. So if you reach out to Eddie, he'll bend over backwards for just about anyone he can.
And they ship frozen because it's coming from up there.
I think mine came in not frozen.
Okay.
And then you freeze it. But all these bladders, they freeze so beautifully. So they come in a big case, so 2 bladders come into a box, and I know for a fact those don't come frozen. So you can take them, and Jeff takes them out and puts like a paper towel layer in between the bladders so they don't like stick to each other. Excuse me, had a hiccup. And I know it's happened to me whenever I've tried to pry them apart. I've nicked a little hole in the bladder, so then when it thaws, it just completely leaked from the bladder. So the paper towel idea is a good idea to do that, or even just like a rag or some sort to separate them in between the two. And then they're good for quite a long time in the freezer, and then you can just stick them in your fridge, and it takes about 4 days for it to thaw out fully. And then I like to take the bladders and kind of smack it around and wiggle it, because you want to like move the chunks that's in there, the frozen chunks, so it'll thaw more evenly. Anything else?
This is excellent.
I don't know where Jeff went. Well, good. I'm glad you guys like the coconut. I guess that's it then. I don't know where Steve's at. This is kind of weird. I've never ended a show on my phone. So, I will thank everybody for coming. I know, right? We'll do a tour, and give us a call if you ever need anything.
Thank you.